everyone, I'm Victoria, and today I'd like to bring you another Top 5 Wednesday. What's Top 5 Wednesday? It's a Goodreads group that was started by Lainey from Ginger Reads Lainey and is now moderated by Sam from Thoughts on Tomes. As always, links down in the description. So today's topic is our favorite children's book. So we could either be talking about children's books that we've read recently, which includes middle grades, or we could talk about the books that we enjoyed when we were children. I decided to go old school for this and only talk about my faves from when I was growing up. So first off, I have Anne of Green Gables. If you don't know, this is the story of orphan Anne as she grows up on Prince Edward Island in Canada. It is a classic and it is fantastic. I absolutely love this growing up. This is actually the book that I had growing up, the version that I had. It has these beautiful illustrations. I probably can't find any for you now, but I loved it. Oh, so cute. But I absolutely adored it. And every time someone would ask me what my middle name was, I would always be like, it's Anne with an E. I was very proud of that fact. And of course, it always made me want to have red hair. Life goals achieved. And what can I say about this? But it's a classic and it was a wonderful story, and I was so happy to have had this be a part of my childhood. One of my next favorites is A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine L'Engle. This is my first introduction kind of to science fiction. This was a difficult book for me to read. I switched from Catholic school to public school, and let's just say that the public school's educational game was on point. And so I read this book with like a dictionary in hand, because we actually had dictionaries back then, not just like Google and stuff. And I loved it regardless. This is so amazing to me. I'd never read anything quite like it, with these different worlds and traveling, and the whole idea of this tesseract that you could actually bend space and travel from one place to another essentially through a tesseract or a wormhole was just like boom, mind blown. And it was also the first time that made me realize that reading a book that was beyond my grade level was absolutely worth it. It was worth the time and the effort and the investment, because it was such a wonderful experience and I really enjoyed it. Another one of my favorites from my childhood is Hatchett by Gary Paulson. So I'm gonna be real here. I'm not an outdoorsy kind of person. I don't like spending lots of time outdoors, but I am fascinated by survival stories, and I absolutely love any kind of media that takes place in like Canada or Alaska or anywhere in that great white north. And that's exactly what this does. It's about a young boy that crash lands in, I believe, the Canadian wilderness, and he has nothing but a hatchet and his wits about him. I went back and took a look at some of the scores for this on Goodreads, and it's not super duper liked. It only has like a 3.6, and a lot of people said it was repetitive. But honestly, reading this at the time, I loved it, and it really exposed me to this idea of the survival story and the fighting in the wilderness to try and live with, like I said, nothing but a hatchet and your wits about you. I absolutely loved it, and I still love stories in this genre to this day. So again, I don't know if I went back and read it now, if the quality would be an issue for me, but at that moment in time, I absolutely adored it. The next book that I want to talk about is Matilda by Roald Dahl. So there's a ton of books that he wrote that are fantastic, but I think this is my favorite of his. We follow a young girl who really does not fit in with her family. They're kind of loud and not the smartest. And she is quite intelligent. She is a little shyer. And like I said, she's very, very intelligent. She goes to a new school and she has a teacher, Miss Honey, who is wonderful and fantastic. But Miss Honey's aunt is in charge of the school and she's awful. But Matilda finds out that not only is she super intelligent, but she also has these like kinetic abilities, and so she can move things with her mind, and so she's able to scare the aunt into being nice to her teacher, Miss Honey, and it just turns out wonderfully in the end. I can't say that I related to Matilda. I mean, my family loved me and I didn't have any mind powers or anything, but I just love the story of a small person, a child, being able to kind of fight back against injustice. I think that was the main thing that resonated with me, was I can't stand injustice, and she, despite her small stature, was able to kind of take back what was Miss Honey's and create a wonderful environment for all the children. And last but not least, one of my favorites from childhood is The Girl Who Owned a City by O.T. Wilson. So again, I haven't read this as an adult. I can only speak from my childhood memories, but I absolutely love this story. Essentially what happens is, it's gonna sound really dark now that I think about it. I was a dark child. I'm also a dark adult. Anyway, the story about this is basically a plague hits the world and everyone that is 13 and older dies. So you are only left with younger children. And the story follows one girl in particular that is able to kind of get all the kids in the neighborhood together. She learns how to drive. She's able to get supplies from different places, and eventually she moves everybody into the high school because it was easily defensible. She was able to protect everybody from these different kind of child gangs that have formed throughout. I love this. This kind of introduced me to the whole idea of, I guess, dystopian and post-apocalyptic, and again, you know, being able to survive. And I definitely made like plans in my head. I was like, what if there's a plague and it hits? Where am I gonna go? And I would like scope out different locations. Such a dark child. Anyway, going back though and looking at it again, I haven't read it, but it doesn't have amazing ratings on Goodreads, and a lot of people say how it's interesting, how it's kind of sanitized, like where are the bodies of the parents and stuff. But you know, at the time, I think that was better being a child, not having the reality of that situation put forth in the book, because I think it would have been too traumatizing otherwise. But I definitely enjoyed this. Again, I don't know if I would quite give it such a high rating if I read it today, but it definitely had an impact on me as a child, and I thought about it long after I had read it. So thank you everyone for watching. Those are the top 5 favorite books of my childhood. Let me know what yours are. I'm really interested to hear, especially since I grew up pre-Harry Potter. So my choice of books was pretty limited, honestly. It was a very different scene. You couldn't just go on the internet and find like what was the next popular book, and it wasn't nearly as like advertised to kids. I don't think reading wasn't nearly as cool as it is now. Again, this is all pre-Harry Potter, long before Percy Jackson and all that. So let me know what you guys were into. Was anybody sort of that pre-Harry Potter time? I'm curious to know what you liked. Thank you again for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!